Hi, everybody. This is your friend and host Anthony Burrows for Life and Finances with Sacrifice and Service. Now, I've had a request put to me, and it's an honorable one. I think I'll look at it because it's something that has persons oftentimes confused as to how they're going to go about dealing with situations sometimes in life and planning. And the request is looking at families and finances. Families and finances. Now, it's a common thing for families to have intense disagreements on how to spend or utilize money. We've seen situations where you've had fights and even killings over the years for inheritance monies and properties left behind. But we're looking at families and finances, and all of this is a part of it. Now, looking at methodologies for families to build lasting wealth. And the most basic beginning and start and origin is to start with savings. That's right. Remember, savings is the first step in towards building wealth. This is for your basic individual who doesn't have a complicated mind when it comes to finances. This is the most basic way to go about building wealth. Start systematically each pay period, setting aside 5, 10, 3, whatever percent that you can set up to 20% if you can. And you set that aside systematically. Now you can have it done through salary deduction, or have it through automatic deduction from your checking account or your savings account, whatever, to what I always refer to as your rainy day account. Preparation for when those tough times come. So that's what you're going to set it into. Then you have the different types of accounts now when you're opening that savings account. You can go to a bank and open a regular savings account, and at banks, most banks now are paying under 1%. The maximum any bank is paying, and I think Fidelity is that one, like 1.25 or 1.75. All the others are under 1%. Because remember, our system, the encouragement is for you to just spend and be a consumer and live in poverty and degradation. But don't get sucked into the world's system. Be an individual thinker. Function and let your mind apply itself for yourself. And remember, things always start on the individual level, then you pass it on to the family level, goes from the family into the community. From the community, it spills over onto the whole island and then spreads around the country. So it all starts with you. That fire that spreads and burns through a nation can start with you. So we're saying you can start at a bank with a savings account, but I recommend go to a credit union and use their savings account, which most credit unions are around 2.5, some at 5%, depending on what their prime is for the nation, but many of them you can get as high as 5%. And the police credit union, I am told by an individual that's a part of them, that they can sometimes get as high as 6%. Then in the event that you have a lump sum, you reach a certain amount that you don't have any plans for it for several years, open a fixed account, or some people refer to it officially as the certificate of deposit. You can do that also with your credit union, and you can also do it with your bank. Then another methodology that families can use is purchasing government bonds. And you see the central bank always have ads in the papers advertising government bonds or bonds for other entities that's out there. Also, we have the mutual funds, and this is where you'd go to places like CFA, Leno, some of the insurance companies, even some of the banks. They sell mutual funds, which is really a fund where they get a group of people together and they purchase from different companies' stocks. They purchase government bonds and different things. Yeah, and a safe one at persons, which is almost like a fixed account and indirectly, are annuities, and that those are an account when you go with the insurance companies. You take out an account, they give you a set interest rate, and you pay into that. Usually some people do 10, 15, 20, 30 years, 35 years and all. And it's more like a retirement account, and you pay into it every pay period until the day that you retire. And then at the end of it, either they decide to give you a lump sum, you can ask for a lump sum, or you can take it as a pension and just get monthly checks. And it's a good way. It's a slow process, because the insurance company, they are collecting fees and all of that with it. But in most of our instances, we won't save that money. So it's best probably to go through that. I never used to be the biggest fan of annuities, but looking at it now, giving situations that I've seen persons in at retirement, annuities aren't a bad way to go. Some persons use the educational fund. I don't know why, because University of Bahamas is now free, but it works something like an annuity. You put in for however many years when the child is born, then when the child is off, ready to go to college, you extract that fund. And they function like annuity, but in their situation, you get it all at a lump sum. And I find that their overhead is rather high. So I don't really advise the educational fund. Some persons go through stocks, which is another way to go through it when you look at basics. Then we have real estate, which is a good way to go through in terms of saving. Some persons simply take that money, purchase property. You can do it on a monthly basis as you're paying for the property, whether it's a piece of land, a building, what have you. But it's also a good way to build wealth. And remember, any transaction that you're doing, any account you're opening, you will always need proper government identification. So you're going to have a passport, NIB card, and usually required a bill with your name and address on it. So those are some of the steps to take as a family to building lasting wealth. Now, as a family, when it's time to target specific purchases or events, for instance, like a wedding, persons are planning a wedding, you got to plan that at least a year to 2 years in advance. And you want to be on a cash basis only system. That's the best way to go. Cash only. So in a situation like that, here's what you'll do. And this is my suggestion, and I've seen persons do it, and it's the best way to do. Sit down with wherever you're gonna, the hall that you're gonna rent. Sit down with them, find out what the amount is, and just give them a down payment, and then you pay towards it each month. So when your time comes, get with the limousine people, get with the flowers people, and you do on and on. Now you're gonna have to, because you're planning a year to two in advance, you're gonna have to make sure go with reputable people that are likely to still be there. And nothing wrong with talking to your insurance agent about purchasing some insurance just as a safety net in the event that something goes wrong, and then that you can still collect. Of course, that's an additional cost, but nothing wrong with having insurance. And I think of persons not planning. I know an individual that's holding money for someone who wants to buy a brand new car, and they're putting it in their account every pay period. But the thing is, the individual doesn't know. All they know is they want a nice car, but they don't know what type of car, how much they want to spend, and all of that. So I said to them, hey, listen, my advice for you to give to that person is go look at some cars, agree to how much you want to spend, and target the goal for that. Do your calculation, see how long it will take you to save that amount. And then, of course, include insuring the vehicle and licensing the vehicle. And then on top of that, you have to look at every quarter carrying out your maintenance of the vehicle. So, and then on a weekly basis, fueling the vehicle. So all of those things goes into it. So it's the purchase, the insurance, and then the maintenance. So we have to do that planning. And if you look at a lot of buildings around our country, especially government buildings, you see that doesn't happen. We are quick to knock up the building, but there are no plans for maintaining. So that's something to do. Now, the ASU is another good way to compile the money as you plan for specific purchases and events. Of course, remember the ASU was a methodology utilized by the descendants of slaves because no banks at the time would loan them money. So that's a good methodology. Now, in the situation with ASU, you must be involved in an ASU with individuals who you can trust, who are reliable. First and foremost, they have jobs, and then they are credible persons. Another methodology I always suggest for persons when they're having specific purchases and targets, go to entities and see if they have what I call a layaway plan. And a layaway is that the entity or the business set the product aside, and then you give it to them monthly until it's paid off. It's a good way to purchase land. It's a good way to purchase products, be it for the home, be it a refrigerator, furniture, whatever, instead of taking out a loan, let them hold it and you just pay on it on a monthly basis until it's totally covered and paid for. And just remember, don't get sucked into consumerism. People, a lot of places will tell you, no, we don't do layaway. Either you just pay it like that. And layaway, a lot of places has, okay, 3 months, 6 months, a year, depending on the size of the purchase. But the main thing is that you will not be incurring interest payments and you'll be functioning on cash only basis, which is the way that you'll never, that way you just don't spend more than you earn. Now, the big thing is that persons, when they are planning family vacations, and we've been stranded on the island and in the country now for the last 9 months, and many persons are going to want to be getting away next year in particular. So now is the time to start planning that family vacation. And here's what I normally suggest. First, identify the place that you want to go to, right? After you have identified the place, do a research on the particular place, and then identify, it's going to be you, your family, and maybe other family members along with you all. Then thing is, sit down with a travel agent, see what it's going to cost for the airline ticket, then of course for the hotel, and I suggest instead of hotel, use Airbnb, because usually you're going to get places that are cheaper, and you're going to be in a situation where you can be more or less moving among the citizens of that particular country and things like that. So it's a good place to have instead of hotel. But sit with the travel agent and get an idea of what the cost will be. That's the accommodation, the air ticket, and ground transportation. A lot of people will use cars. So after you've decided on how much it's going to cost you, then the family, you lay out a budget and determine through your calculations how much you need to set aside a month that will cover the needs when it's time to jump on the plane or the boat or whatever you to head out. And there are many travel agents out there who will take what I would call, who would do a payment plan, and you go in each month and you give them a certain amount towards the tickets and towards the ground transportation and all of the different things that you want. Now, one of the things also is that you must budget food, because a lot of people, all of a sudden, they're going to hit this restaurant, that restaurant. Next thing you know, the money's gone. So you budget how much you're going to spend a day on food. Budget how much you're going to spend a day with shopping. And then budget how much you're going to spend a day with entertainment. And here's something people always leave out, because a lot of times, you're running to the States or some of these places and you're just shopping and just moving up and down all day. Include educational activities as a part of the vacation, especially if you have children. Even if you don't, include educational activity. Broaden your mind, learn about other places and other people, so you can visit like museums. And then if you have children, one place is I always suggest, hit some of the big gigantic bookstores in the area, or some of the small quaint ethnic bookstores. Go through those. Spend like half a day, spend several hours in there, scouring the shelves, looking at books, and then purchase here and there. Now, I know around the world, and the Bahamas is no different, the average amount of persons who read for entertainment and knowledge, and read for entertainment, probably around 10%. Then those who are going to purchase books probably drop down to about 4 or 5%. So you'll be in a special group, so to speak, if you want to call it a special group. But the idea is, hey, grow your knowledge, grow your base, and get those youngsters in your family and the teenagers and the older ones, and you yourself start into something. Learn about different things. Don't just be about your business and your activity all day, and then at the end of the day you sit down, click the television on. You're consuming and destroying time. Put time to use, because remember, time and money are not infinite. So you have to use them wisely. And then the last thing on that is obtain traveler's insurance when you're seeking to travel, because in this instance, in the event airline cancel or whatever, so you have different things whether it's the airline, the ground transportation, the hotel, the Airbnb, just get some extra insurance to kind of cover you with that. So that's a new thing for a lot of us as Bahamians, but it's something to look at. Now, when you're looking at your day-to-day living family budget, this is day-to-day living now, family budget. Set out a budget and always allocate it based on percentages. Don't allocate, say, oh, I can put this amount here and that amount there. No, select percentages. When you're going to buy your house or buy your property, you want to be in a situation where you're not going to spend any more than 30% of your monthly income, so that you have 70% to cover your other things. On utilities, you don't want to exceed, say, 12-15% of your income. Food, you don't want to be more than 10 to 15% of your income. Then the children's education, wherever they go to school, and I advise parents, put your children in one of these private schools if you can afford it. If you can afford it, put them in one of these private schools. Even though I'm not the greatest supporter of the education and the educational system as the world purports and teaches it, but if you're going to do that, spend the money on the front end, because the government schools are really and truly woeful. But of course, you can do well in a government school with the support behind that child, but it is a challenge. Then, of course, you have to set a certain amount to cover your insurance. That is for your property. That's for your house, your car, maybe your business, and those sorts of things. So you have to do it. Now, the health insurance, oh man, that's expensive. But we have a pretty good system, you know. It may be slow and poor with service. I shouldn't say poor, inadequate service when they're ready. But you have a system that's adequate. You can utilize the clinics. And then clinics, if you're in a situation, you can always get your annual physical. Please, let's do that this year. Get our annual physical. Get your annual physical, especially if you're the head of a family. And the head in this instance, that's if you're a single mother with these children, get your annual physical. If you're a single father with children, get your annual physical. If you're husband and wife with children and whatever you're in there, get your annual physical. Let's do that annually. Women, get those mammograms. Check up on your situation, because we know breast cancer is rampant and massacring us. Men, get those prostates checked. Let's get our annual physical, because remember, your health is the beginning of wealth. If you can't move around and your brain can't function, you can't grow and amass wealth. So let's go that. Now, one of the best ways for families to really build now generational wealth. The other one we just talking about family wealth, but we're talking about generational wealth that will pass on to your children and your children's children, is get together as a group and form a cooperative. You see, going it alone, yes, many times you'll get there, but you toting too much burden. It's going to consume your time and it's going to wear you down, and it will stress your family. And I know persons over the years, I know an individual over his lifetime, a Bahamian, he would have had I would say, GDP, a gross domestic product of everything that he would have produced over his lifetime of probably $25 million. He was one of those guys, he went it alone. But 4:30 in the morning he's up, 5 o'clock in the morning he's out the door, returns home 8 o'clock at night, and beat. And so going it alone, you can make it, but it's burdensome. And sometimes it's a lonely, lonely road. So in situations like that, then oftentimes you're a target for persons. So cooperative is a good way to share the burden and to share the load. Find persons who have the resources and who have the mindset of yourself and willing to go with you. So you form that cooperative, right? That's a good way of building generational wealth. There has to, of course, be unity and a oneness of purpose. So the person that you do it with and persons, that's what you got to do. Now, the person taking the lead, you must definitely have a clear idea for the investment. And then prepare a prospectus, which will give them like a summary telling them what it is you want to invest in, what the deals are. Then you got to identify how much shares each person is going to have. Then make that investment idea crystal clear. Just reiterate it and get it crystal clear. Remind everybody of the risk involved, because when you're investing, you're taking a risk. So remind them that whatever they put in, Make sure it's something that they can afford to lose. And then you have to come up with methodology in terms of, hey, what's the escape clause, or how a person can exit at, not the escape, let's say exit at the end, the strategy of if someone has gone too far and figure I want to come out. And then lastly, the amount to be invested. Now, part of family funds and family and finances is the preparation for your departure from this earth, and that is debt. So you can look at one or two things, and sometimes both. That is, make a will. Make a will. Now, here's the thing. When we make wills, many of us, and you hear it all the time, we got sons and daughters and nieces and nephews and brothers and sisters who are really and truly worthless. They are just here. They are not productive. They are wasteful. They squander whatever they get and they destroy whatever you put in their hands. So if you know that's their situation, don't leave them anything, because your hard-earned wealth will be consumed in no matter of time. I mean, I shouldn't say no matter of time. It will be consumed almost instantaneously, because they're going to be partying, wasting it, and squandering the money. So, and then if you know you got a child who's living beyond their means, even though they have their education, quote unquote, I could say education, this world system education, but they are, they driving the best car, living in the big house, and of course, they can't rub 2 cents together, and they got the biggest car, but they only can afford to put $5 gas in it. So, also another way, instead, if you don't want to go to the direction of doing a will, set up a living trust. Now, a living trust is a legal document, so you could easily transfer your assets by utilizing a trustee. That's somebody that you trust, usually a bank, a law firm, or something like that. And the thing is, you avoid probate, and you avoid the courts and those type of expenses. Now, a living trust is just a way too. I remember there was a friend of mine. His father was on his deathbed for about a year. And his father had about just over $1 million in cash and probably $1 million and some in assets, properties and things like maybe like $2 million in assets. And the thing was, he had about 10 children, and here it is now, there's a squabble even while he's on his deathbed. And he said, what you think I should do? I said, boy, well, the Holy Spirit must have sent him to me. I don't know. So I said to him, hey, set up a living trust. Talk to your father about doing a living trust. And instead of putting monies and things in everybody's hand, set up a living trust where it'll be that you allocate, they kind of put the money in this trust fund, and it collects a certain amount, this $1 million and some, collects a certain amount of interest annually, and then every year you just pay out what is the interest that's paid out and shared up among the children equally. He did that, suggested it to his father. His father liked the idea, so they set that up. And of course, some of the children were happy, and then some again wasn't too pleased and had squabbles. But that is life. And the thing is, his children will be able to go to college from that same money if they want to, or start their business or do different things from that. So that's a good way of looking at it. And you're almost kind of reaching from the grave and helping your family, if you want to look at it like that. Now, persons, when you inherit, be it things or lump sum, persons sometime at the end of working years, they get a nice pension and stuff like that. And when you're doing that, if you know the time is coming for you to get a lump sum, start planning well in advance where that money is going to go. Don't wait till you get it, then say, oh, what am I going to do with it? And then before you know it, this one needs something, that one wants something, and the money is gone. So bear in mind, family and finances, it must be strategic in your planning. And of course, always put God first. So when it comes down to all of this, it comes down to your financial literacy. Commit yourself to being a lifelong learner. Commit yourself to teaching your children, talking to them about money, telling them about money, advocating them to read things about money. Let them see you watching programs about money. That's the preparation. That's teaching your children. And then the final thing is to always share your knowledge. Share your knowledge, because when you leave, it goes with you. And in sharing it, that's how you pass your life and your legacy on. Now, may the God of heaven and his Son, the Christ, bless and prosper you.